Good morning and welcome to the Marion County Board of Commissioners regular Wednesday board session. Today is Wednesday, October 31st, 2012. So happy Halloween. And we are meeting here in the Board of Commissioners boardroom at 1115 Commercial Street Northeast in Salem. We begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So this morning we have a very, very special presentation, some special guests. We want to take a little time to recognize Veterans Day. So Colonel Dave Foray has brought with him a couple of gentlemen, and I would ask Colonel Foray to make some introductions, and then I'll turn it over to you, gentlemen.
Need a microphone.
Yes, please pick up that microphone there. And while he's doing that, Colonel Foray is with the Oregon National Guard. So you're ready to go. Go ahead.
Ma'am. Thank you for inviting us down today. Appreciate it. We have a presentation today on your Oregon National Guard, and as we speak, the members of your Oregon National Guard from the Willamette Valley are on the East Coast conducting search and rescue operations in support of Hurricane Sandy. So we didn't realize they were going to be deployed on that short a notice, but they were shipped out, and I understand they're doing great there. Today we have two veterans of Iraq that both served in combat operations over there, Master Sergeant Jocks, Sergeant Grogan. Master Sergeant Jocks was wounded in action, received a Purple Heart. He's a member of, he's been through Ranger School and an airborne unit. And Sergeant Grogan is with our Public Affairs Office. I think you'll enjoy their presentation today.
Okay, thank you very much.
From small farming communities to bustling cities, the faces of the Oregon National Guard are many.
I'm a son and a student at the Oregon State University, and I am Oregon.
I'm a husband and a father of one. I am Oregon.
I'm a grandfather and a wheat farmer from Helix.
We are your neighbors, co-workers, and friends.
We are the community.
We are Oregon.
We are your family. The Oregon National Guard has been there for you before Oregon was even a state. In 1843, when Oregon, then only a territory, pushed for statehood as a militia defending our homes, we were there. In 1887, these soldiers were officially recognized as the Oregon National Guard, and 12 years later, in 1899, we formed, mobilized, and deployed under the 2nd Oregon Volunteer Infantry Regiment to the Philippines. In the Spanish-American War, we were there. December 7, 1941, while Japanese Zeros descended upon Hawaii, attacking Pearl Harbor, declaring war on the United States, Oregon's best under the 41st Infantry Division was already training at Fort Lewis, Washington for battle in the South Pacific. In World War II, we were there. Since September 11, 2001, when terror struck the core of our nation, Oregon has deployed thousands of soldiers and airmen into the fight, both to Afghanistan and Iraq. Here at home, through the Air Sovereignty Alert, our Oregon Air National Guard is there, ensuring our skies are safe. Even now, as our country continues to defend freedom and combat terrorism across the globe, the Oregon National Guard is there today fighting for our nation. Always coming back to Oregon, to our home in the Northwest.
As the Adjutant General for the great state of Oregon, I have the privilege of leading some of the finest men and women our country has to offer. Each Guard member emphasizes competence, confidence, courage, and commitment in all they do. The Oregon National Guard has been there for Oregonians since the mid-1800s and will continue to be there in the future. I pledge to you, the people of Oregon, that when we are needed, your Oregon National Guard is always ready, always there.
Working alongside Oregon Emergency Management, representing the Federal Emergency Management Agencies, Region 10, and the Oregon State Defense Force, the Oregon National Guard is a part of the very fiber that makes up this great state of Oregon. From raging wildfires in our state's forests to pulling neighbors out of flooded communities or lost climbers off Mount Hood, or providing new direction to our youngest citizens in the Oregon Youth Challenge program, the Oregon National Guard is there. More than 8,000 soldiers and airmen strong, the Oregon National Guard is housed in armories across the state's 36 counties and 2 Air National Guard bases located in Portland and Klamath Falls, helping the state's economy by $300 million. The Oregon Military Department, the headquarters for the state's Guard Force, is located in Salem. Joint Force Headquarters, also located in Salem, commands various units, such as the Medical Command at Anderson Readiness Center, the Civil Support Team, the Counter-Drug Team, and the Recruiting and Retention Battalion. The 41st Infantry Brigade Combat Team, headquartered right now in Tigard, but soon to be in Clackamas at the 41st Infantry Division Armed Forces Reserve Center, commands 6 battalions rooted in communities across the state. Those battalions are the 41st Special Troops Battalion, headquartered in Clackamas, the 141 Brigade Support Battalion near the Portland International Airport at the Cleaver Armory, 2nd Battalion 218th Field Artillery in Forest Grove, 2nd Battalion 162 Infantry Regiment in Springfield, 1st Battalion 82nd Cavalry Regiment in Bend, and 1st Battalion 186 Infantry Regiment in Medford. 82nd Brigade Troop Command, headquartered in Lake Oswego, commands 5 battalions. Those battalions are the 82nd Support Detachment Rear Operations Center out of Lake Oswego, the 821 Troop Command Battalion in Salem, the 641 Aviation housed both in Salem and Pendleton, with elements of Washington State's 168 Aviation sharing the Pendleton facility, 1249th Engineer Battalion, also based in Salem, and the 3rd Battalion 116th Heavy Brigade Combat Team based in Pendleton and LeGrand, which is attached to an Idaho National Guard Combat Brigade. Protecting our skies is our Air National Guard, housed in 3 locations. The 142nd Fighter Wing, charged with the Air Sovereignty mission, is at the Portland Air National Guard Base. The 173rd Fighter Wing, the only F-15 fighter jet schoolhouse in the U.S., is at Kingsley Field in Klamath Falls, and elements of the Combat Operations Group are stationed at Camp Rylea near Warrenton. For more than 150 years, your Oregon National Guard has been there when our state and our country has needed us most. We will continue to be there in our communities and abroad, volunteering to selflessly put Oregon, your home, our home, first.
I am Major General Raymond F. Reese, and I am proud to say we are Oregon.
Well, thank you guys for having us here today. This is always a privilege to get to talk about our organization and the great things that the troops out in the field are doing, you know, as we speak right now on the East Coast, a few of them. We'll kick these PowerPoint slides off with...
Get the lights again down.
There we go. This, you know, kind of opens things up. That was a horrible day we had, but it's something we can never forget, ever. Another thing I don't ever want to forget is some of our jets out of the Oregon Guard were the first ones in the sky protecting us on the West Coast. And I know one of those pilots, he's a great friend of mine, and it's a tremendous story of him getting in there and the teamwork that they had, getting that plane up in the air to protect us because they didn't know what was going on. So the next slide. We'll kind of go into our mission, our ready force, equipped and trained to respond to any contingency. We are ready, or we're always, when we're needed, we're always there. And that is a true fact. And we've proven that over and over again, and I'll go into that. We're ready to respond to federal or state capabilities, shifting to domestic operations. A very modular force is the best way to kind of explain it. We're not specialized in a lot of things, which keeps things from going extinct. We're modular. We can handle anything. And at the end, I'll get a chance to talk about some of those troops that I've dealt with. We have a tremendous history here in Oregon, starting out in 1877 with the organization of the Oregon National Guard under Colonel Owen Summers. He was also a Civil War veteran that moved out here in the 1800s, and a tremendous history. I highly recommend looking into that because I could go on for probably 2 hours on just him. 1917, Oregon National Guard units were mobilized for World War I, and that's where I'm wearing my regimental pin, first to assemble. The 41st Infantry Division, or the 41st Division, was the first division to assemble for World War I, and they did it in a tremendous amount of time, and that's how they got their name, first to assemble. And they did that actually at Clackamas, where Camp Withicum is now. And amazing history there. Going into World War II, the 41st Division was again organized, and they were the first unit in the military trained for jungle warfare and deployed for the island hopping campaign in World War II, where General MacArthur loved them, and they were called MacArthur's Own. And that's another tremendous story on the heroics of the people that were out of Oregon and the West Coast that went over there and ended up bringing that horrible thing to an end. Since 9/11, there's been over 13,000 individual deployments. That's overseas deployments of people in the Oregon Guard. I don't think I know anybody who hasn't gone at least once. A lot of my friends have, I'm in the minority of twice, or average maybe minority. A lot of them have gone 3, maybe 4 times now. And it's been a huge community effort, and it's been a huge family effort to keep things going with them. But they've done a tremendous job, and we've helped out a tremendous amount of people, and it's wonderful to be a part of that. Our National Guard's essential task list is a lot of things that we do are command and control, communications, and medical. Our essential task list is aviation. There's been a lot of search and rescue done. We've seen a lot of things done on Mount Hood, and security, maintaining security so things can begin to be done. And then chemical, biological, radiation, nuclear, and high-yield explosives team that is ready to respond to anything. And that's an amazing team that they have there. They're highly specialized. I know a few of them, and the training they have to go through is unparalleled. And they're some of the most professional people I've ever met in my life. Some of our past history with, contingency operations, disasters, the 96 floods, we can all remember those. That was pretty bad. We were there. The new Carissa, when that popped up on the beach down there outside of Coos Bay, the Guard responded. In 2001, Operation Noble Eagle, that was a response to 9/11. Planes went up in the air, but also guarding the airports, making sure that we actually got a hold of things before we did anything else. There was a lot of things that went on with Operation Noble Eagle. Almost at the same time, the Biscuit fires down in southern Oregon, our whole battalion went down there, and that was an amazing deal. It was pretty much blocking roads off so people didn't go up and die, but then also fighting the fires at the same time. The Katrina relief in 2005, I was there. I got a chance to talk to some people off. It was amazing to go there. I do want to say it was also one of the most amazing things I've seen. It was on a Labor Day weekend, Friday. I had my whole platoon there in, I think it was 8 hours. I had my whole platoon. I didn't even have to call them, some of them. They knew what was going on, and they showed up. And we were ready to go. And I think the whole company, and Bravo Company down in Corvallis, I think we were ready to go in about 16 hours on a Labor Day weekend, unannounced. That was, show me an active duty unit that can do that. So, Mount Hood Search and Rescues, 2007, Pendleton, and then Operation Snowdrift, the Gresham winter storms of 2008, the Vernonia floods of 2008, that's another huge one. I can go on about that one, and pulling the people off the top of the buildings. Our Air Guard did a tremendous job with their Zodiacs and getting up there and taking care of that. The 2011 Dollar Lake fire and 2011 Cascades fires, and these are going to continue, but our people are always ready to go, and when they get the call, they're there. It's an amazing thing to see it, because there's the motivation and the just seeing the passion in those troops to help it's really something I enjoy being around. Going into the support domestic operations, you can see the man days that have been required to go out and support these missions, adding them all just up since 96, over 704 thousand man days were required to go and take care of these things. And they all ended up doing a fantastic job. A little personal history. I threw my old platoon on from Iraq, and this was those guys are my heroes. And I will go into that a little bit in a second, but what you don't see up there is I had a chemical engineer, 3 diesel mechanics, a plumber, electrical journeyman, let's see what else, a helicopter pilot, civilian side. If anything broke where we were, it got fixed so quick you could hardly, you couldn't think twice. It was just amazing. We had, generators go down. I was like, hey, can you go fix that thing? And they had it fixed so fast, it was amazing. Plus, on top of that, our company was chosen to be the Air Quick Reaction Force for the 1st Cavalry Division by the division commander, because we had more qualified people in our company than he had in his whole 22,000 person division. So we were selected to do that mission on top of being able to do all these other things. So it was a real privilege, and those guys are my heroes. Another one that that just being in the Guard has allowed me to do is being a part of the Presidential Global Peace Operations Initiative, where I got to go to Mongolia, Bangladesh twice, and Cambodia, and it was to train peacekeepers to go into places that are dealing with horrible atrocities, and like in Africa, we've read about those, that we can't do. And our goal was to train 20,000 of them, and that ended up happening. One of the missions that I went on in Bangladesh, they were literally getting on the plane after we trained them to go to, I think they went to the Ivory Coast down in Africa, and it was just a very rewarding thing for me. And the guy there that's holding onto that Cambodian flag next to me, he was actually the Prime Minister's personal bodyguard of Cambodia. And he had a really big impact on my life. He's such a motivated little guy, and you can see the pride in that guy's eye. But he has a passion to make his country come out of the rubble that they dealt with the Khmer Rouge and all the horrible atrocities they had there. He had such a positive attitude, and I've never forgotten him. And he goes, I'm going to make this place better for my kids. And I went, I'm going to give you everything I can possibly do to do that. And we were just wonderful friends, and they were wonderful people to be around. Them. It was a real wonderful thing to be with. This rolls into the reintegration. We have one of the best reintegration programs. I would consider it the best in the United States. And it started back in 2005. And that goes into thinking of the old platoon that you saw there of my guys. They risked their lives to get me out of there. And I'll never forget that. And what the Oregon Guard has allowed me to do is to do that and use everything within my power to make sure they have the best resources we can find for them for a good career. We don't want a job for them. We want a good career. We want to get them back in school using the post 9/11 GI Bill or whatever they have. And we also want to watch out for their physical and mental well-being and make sure that they have the things to get better if they were hurt mentally or physically. And we've done everything in our power. We've worked with General Caldwell, Colonel McRae, Colonel Foray, who we have here today as our new director. And we focus on the big three and go out and make sure that people coming back aren't just essentially thrown to the curb. They have resources there. They have things in their back pocket to go out there and make sure that we're doing our best for when they return from these operations to get them the things that they do deserve and that they have shown that they can handle. And it's been an incredibly rewarding thing. And our family program is second to none. So you have the family side there too. So their kids are taken care of, the wives are taken care of, and we'll also help them with employment or anything else that they need through the family program. Most of all, we want to thank you guys again for your support, and just remembering we're out there, and remember those there's a lot of those people out in the weeds doing great things right now, and it's very rewarding to get to show them off to you a little bit when we can. So thank you guys very much. And if you guys have any questions.
Any questions?
No, not really. Comments, well,
Go ahead.
comments is simple. Thanks for being here and thanks for what you do. And that was most interesting and impressive, so thanks.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, it's a great presentation. Thank you so much for being here and for your service. Can't help but think of 3 people that I know very well that serve in the National Guard and the weekends that they spend away, and one gentleman that actually went to Iraq, and his family was left behind. I think he was there for close to a year. It was quite a while. And then a young man who's my son's age that works with the National Guard and also went to with Katrina. We got 2 voicemail messages from him when he was down there. I've saved them all these years. I haven't deleted them yet because it was just so exciting to hear his voice and hear his enthusiasm for being, down there where there was a lot of difficulty, but he was part of a solution, and it's just made a huge difference in his life. So I appreciate that too.
Thank you very much. And like I was saying, Katrina was one of those things that it was hard for all of us to go here in the States. It was one of those things. But it was amazing to see how the resources we have within our individuals on the team to come together when you have 650 of us show up. Diesel mechanics, electricians, plumbers, you name it, we had it there. And it made a huge impact once we were able to use those resources within the ranks. And we made our living area was very nice. Once we give them a chance to get running water going again, the generators, and then bringing people in and helping them out. It was amazing, absolutely amazing.
Well, again, thank you, both Master Sergeant Jocks and Sergeant Grogan and Lieutenant Dave Frey. To say thank you isn't enough. As we were visiting earlier when you were talking about Katrina, my son-in-law was there. He's been to Iraq and Afghanistan, and my father was a World War II veteran, and I have many other family members. And what you do, anybody putting their life on the line for another or for your country, and ultimately giving your life for your country and for freedom there just aren't words to thank you enough for what you do. And taking this opportunity to come and share your message, the presentation is wonderful, and I know you are making this presentation to others. I hope you're getting it out to schools and where youth groups, because these young people need to know there's more to what you do than what their perceptions may be, and so valuable. The message is very clear. You provide many services, not just in the battle of war, but these natural disasters and helping communities take care of whatever there may be. But just simply, too, the leadership you provide day to day to the community and always available. So I'm very, very thankful that you could be here. I want to also take the opportunity, since Colonel Foray is here. Colonel Foray has recently joined our Public Safety Coordinating Council, and we've been looking to have a closer tie with military, particularly the National Guard, relative to public safety issues. And it's just a perfect match, and what you're here today to talk about, and reintegration is so important for our community and for your members. And then, of course, I had the opportunity last Friday to go to the Marion County Circuit Court inaugural veterans docket. So another aspect of what we're doing in our community to give back to those of you who've given so much to us. And so there are a lot of really important things happening, exciting things happening. And again, I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing this information and for what you do. And before you get up to leave, I want to take just a minute to share a little background. I like to do it every year. We are not, I want to, as I mentioned earlier, recognize Veterans Day, which is November 11th. We are not having a board session next week, so today, again, and you're here to help us honor that. But Veterans Day was, as I know you gentlemen know very well, is formerly Armistice Day. It is an annual federal holiday honoring armed services veterans. And it is the anniversary of the signing of the armistice that ended World War I. Major hostilities of World War I were formally ended at the 11th hour, the 11th day, the 11th month of 1918, with the German signing of the armistice. And then U.S. President Woodrow Wilson first proclaimed Armistice Day for November 11th in 1919. And as the history you've presented, we've had the National Guard since 1918. And he said in that proclamation, "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nation." A message that's very relevant here today. And then fast forwarding a little bit, bringing us a little closer to today, in 1945, World War II veteran Raymond Weeks from Birmingham, Alabama, had the idea to expand Armistice Day to celebrate all veterans, not just those who had died in World War I. And of course, we're doing that every year and hopefully forever and ever. So again, thank you very much for all you do for us. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. So, thanks. All right. That was such a wonderful day to start our day. We will move now to public comment, and we do not have anyone signed up this morning to speak, so I will remind people this is an opportunity for the public to come forward and share any information, thoughts, ideas that would be important to the community. Next is our consent calendar, and I know Commissioner Brantano is going to do that, and also you will include, we have an item that needs to be pulled off the agenda.
All right, Madam Chair, I'll start with that. I'd make a motion that we pull item 4 that considers ratification of a collective bargaining agreement from our agenda this morning.
I'll second the motion, and I understand it's not ready in terms of the processing the contract.
Yes, and I understand too, and perhaps John Latimer or Gloria Roy could add to this. My understanding is it's just a procedural delay, not a concern about any of the desire to move forward and get it signed. Is that correct? Good. Okay. So there's a motion and was there a second to pull that off?
Yep.
And those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All right.
And now, Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve our consent calendar this morning. It's rather short for once. Under Business Services, approve modifying the Marion County Benefits Program rules of eligibility pertaining to registered and non-registered domestic partners to comply with ORS 106.300. Finance, approve a real estate option agreement and receive an option fee of $100 for the purchase of 2 easements over the frontage of county property located at the County Dog Shelter Facility at 3550 Almsville Highway in Salem, and approve a real estate option agreement and receive an option fee of $100 for the purchase of 2 easements over the frontage of county property located at the County Jail Complex at 3940 4040 Almsville Highway in Salem.
I'll second the motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, moving to the action items first this morning under Board of Commissioners is to consider the appointment of Mary Bunny, as most of us know Bunny, McNatt to the Oregon Garden Foundation Board of Directors, 2-year term ending October 31st, 2014. And Kathy Crocker is here to give us a little information about Bunny.
Yes, good morning and happy Halloween. I am Kathy Crocker, Volunteer Services Coordinator, and it's my pleasure today to introduce you to Bunny McNatt, who has been overwhelmingly recommended for the Oregon Garden Foundation Board. As you may know, the Oregon Gardens broke ground in 1997, and the grand opening was in 2001. The Oregon Garden Foundation Board is responsible for oversight and management, although day-to-day operations are handled by Moonstone Garden Management Team. The Oregon Gardens are such a treasure to have in Marion County. We are so fortunate. Bunny has expressed to me that she's just very passionate about the gardens, has volunteered both her time and money to the gardens. It's such a treasure. If people haven't been out there to see it, it's an amazing place to be. So my pleasure to introduce you to Bunny, and she can either tell you a little bit about herself if she'd like, or you can ask her some questions, but she comes very highly recommended.
Good morning, Bunny.
Good morning, Patty. Thank you, Kathy. That was a very nice introduction. I have lived in the area literally all my life, and I grew up on a farm. My family still is in agriculture, and my dad was early into the grass seed industry, and I have a nephew who is now managing the family farm, and he has been producing flower seeds. So when in early summer you look out that direction and you see the patchwork of colors, probably my family has a little bit to do with that. And so the Oregon Garden is something that has just been near and dear to my heart from the very beginning. And I think I was there in some of the public information meetings when they were first talking about drawing up plans for it. So I really have followed it along. And it is a treasure and a resource for all of us. So if there's anything I can do to promote it and help maintain it, it would be my great pleasure to do that. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Brandhan?
Well, I don't know where to start, but I'm awful happy to, we kind of missed terms on a Silverton Hospital Foundation, but I certainly knew of Bunny and the good work she's done. But what I'm really happy about is having her on the Oregon Garden Foundation, and we're kind of just getting set up to hopefully do good things. Carson Lord, who served as chair, did a wonderful job, and he's moving on with a involvement in nursery. So we still have one seat open. I'm not quite ready to announce, but I have someone in mind. And then with the full complement of the board, we've just hired a development director, just signed a contract this week, and she'll be also that first meeting in November. So anyway, what I'm trying to say, I hope we're going to get organized, get that, and then start really moving for the work we want to do and promoting the garden and expanding the experience and the pure viability of the operations. So I think we're getting set up to move forward.
Good. Gosh, mentioning the groundbreaking, I was actually there for the groundbreaking of the garden, and it's a place that's near and dear to me, and had the opportunity to serve on the board prior to Commissioner Brantano, and it's just always going to be in my heart, and I know Commissioner Brantano is doing a good job on it, especially that he can get Bunny to agree to
I should
serve.
say, her name came up. I didn't hesitate very long. Got right on the
I
phone,
know,
and she worried me a little bit, then gave in. I got to tell you.
Well, and I have to say, somebody had suggested to me, you, Bunny, and I passed that on. But no, thank you, because as Commissioner Brantano has mentioned, I'm well aware of your service to the Silverton Hospital Foundation that you and my husband served together. So we got to know each other quite well, and of course, Don has background there too. We know what you are capable of doing and how you get involved in things and provide the kind of dedication that really is necessary for this important project. So thank you for volunteering to do it.
Well, thank you for all your kind words. I look forward to service.
Good.
Well, I want to extend my thanks also, and I noticed on your application that you talk about teaching at the secondary level. I was a junior high and high school teacher, so that caught my eye. So tell me a little bit about your teaching career.
Well, I taught full-time before I had kids, and then I stayed home with my kids. And when my youngest went to kindergarten, I decided to go the substitute route. And I thought I'd give my kids a break and not substitute in their school district. So I moved over to the Malala district, and for about 10 or 12 years, I was kind of the everyday substitute. I just would show up, and they would plug me in someplace, and I really enjoyed that a lot. And so I retired from that at, I don't know, about, 10, 15 years ago, I think. So I was in almost every classroom that the high school contained, and that was very interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Well, it's a great background for the foundation, too, because education is such a critical part of the garden as well, so you'll bring that perspective.
Thank you. And I have volunteered in the educational department at the Oregon Garden. I worked in the Discovery Forest, and then in the garden in general, I led group tours, both for high school age kids and the public. So there was a time that I was really familiar with all of the nooks and crannies in the garden, and so that's been one of the things that's so nice, is to see the way the garden has grown and filled in. I mean, it is just beautiful, because I remember when it was a horse pasture and the pavilion was a riding arena. I actually rode my horse out there. So I hate to talk about going back so many years. But
Well, perfect. Thank you.
you're welcome.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion
Okay.
then. I would move that we appoint Mary Bunny McNatt to the Oregon Garden Foundation Board of Directors to a 2-year term ending October 31st, 2014.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other comments? All right, those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Okay, and again, thank you so much, Bunny.
Thank you.
I know you've already been very involved, so this is just a continuation of what you've already been doing.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and thanks, Kathy, for bringing Bunny up today.
Thanks.
All right, next on our agenda is to consider approval of a resolution authorizing the Association of Oregon and California Counties to retain $11,405 of Marion County's balance in the Special Advocacy Fund. Good morning, Hitesh.
Thanks,
Hitesh
Commissioner.
Parekh.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Hitesh Parekh. I'm a management analyst in the Board of Commissioners office. And the item before you is to consider approving a resolution authorizing the Association of ONC Counties to retain $11,405 of the balance remaining in of Marion County's share of the Special Advocacy Fund. In 2009, 15 Oregon counties, including Marion County, entered into an agreement with the association to create a Special Advocacy Fund. The fund was established to provide resources to the association in its efforts to reauthorize the Secure Rural Schools Safety Net legislation and to fund development of a long-term management solution when the Secure Rural Schools funding is no longer available. Marion County contributed approximately $20,000 to the fund, of which the association has used $9,380. The association is requesting that it be allowed to retain the remaining balance in the special fund so that it can continue with its efforts to replace the Secure Rural Schools legislation with the long-term management solution on the ONC lands. The association has also been a central participant in the development of the ONC Jobs Conservation and Trust Plan, and also represents counties, including Marion County, in the planning process with the Bureau of Land Management as it begins revisions on the existing resource management plans for Western Oregon. Attached in your board session is a packet which lists all of the counties that have contributed to the Special Advocacy Fund and also each of the amounts that the counties have contributed.
All right. I know both, maybe I may go to Commissioner Brantano first. This is something you sit on this committee. I know you have some comments.
I might have liked to have gone second because...
Oh, okay, whatever you'd like to do.
Since you've asked, I am on the ONC counties. This is money that was set aside prior and actually residue then for the efforts of securing monies from secure rural schools and successful. And now the board would like to just leave those there ready for the future. The emphasis isn't really secure rural schools, but a bill that will show, I guess, led by Greg Walden to emphasize actual management and the harvest in the forest, which goes back to the original ONC bill and what it was supposed to do. I should talk about it a little further, but more harvest, more management, but it also highlights setting aside those properties, those acreage, I should say, that are truly sensitive and leave them alone. So there's really something in there for anybody, and that effort will be going on in this next year. Our delegation, with the exception of the Portland representatives, are all behind it, and it has some great chance. But the association would like to leave those monies in just to have them. And I understand, and I don't mean to cut off Commissioner Carlson, and it's right. You would rather see that there's a plan, and a plan that you and we approve of first before you just leave it there. And frankly, what I was just trying to write out was an addition to the resolution that would not actually let those money, leave them there, but not actually release them until a further resolution of the Marion County board. The amount of dollars is about $11,000. It's I didn't do a quick math, but it looks like it's about 5% of the total put in by all the counties, so it isn't make or break. But I personally feel a need to remain in step with the rest of the ONC counties and board, and that solidarity is all important as we go into the future. So I throw that out. I'll, whichever way you want to go is fine, but my preference would be for what I described.
Commissioner Carlson.
Well, thank you. Well, we had a bit of a conversation about this on Monday at management update meeting, and I made a number of comments at that point about my concerns, particularly around the efforts of advocacy on our federal forests. So we have the ONC counties, and they have a history and an agreement, I guess, that stems back many, many years. As I understand it, the lands were involved with the railroad, and they were deeded over or whatever to the counties, so the counties were supposed to manage those lands. We have the federal forests, which are in many instances in the same part of the state, but they're not quite the same and governed by a bit of different laws. And sometimes people think those two are the same. They're related, but they're not exactly the same. But the advocacy that we've been doing around that stems all the way back to the 1980s with the spotted owl. And the fact that with court cases and we're literally locked up. And we had that discussion here when the BLM people came to talk about their effort to create a new plan. So first of all, I want to put on the record that I am all for advocacy around this issue, and I'm all for active management of the forest. I think that certainly we're appreciative of the fact that there were payments to compensate the counties for the inability to cut timber on those lands. But if you compare the amount of money that the counties got for the payments and the amount of money that they used to get for cutting timber, it's not even close. And so you have counties in southern Oregon, and also those payments for not cutting have ratcheted down and down and down. There have been a couple times real close calls where we didn't think they would come at all, and then kind of in the 11th hour there was some funding, but it was always less than before. And I think this final amount of money has come, and it's very small. So we need to do something different, and I think everyone that's involved with it agrees that we do. In my experience at the federal level, working with the Association of Oregon Counties, particularly in the year that I served as president, it became very clear to me that we weren't all operating in tandem. We pay dues to the National Association of Counties. They have a representative through their Public Lands Committee that lobbies on Capitol Hill. We pay dues to the Association of Oregon Counties. They have a fund and a committee, and they also, a number of those members work at the federal level through NACO. And then we have the ONC counties, which have county commissioners that serve on their board, but not from all counties, because ONC lands are only in certain counties. And then this other entity that's out there, I think it's the Coalition of National Schools, but it's Forest Counties and Schools. National Forest Counties and Schools, took kind of a preeminent role over a number of, last several years. And part of the issue that we had is that we provided money to them, and then they went ahead on their advocacy issues, and it was as if we didn't really have control of the effort because the money was going to this other entity that consists of California and Oregon counties. So I expressed all of that in the meeting, and my concerns about making sure that if we were authorizing the ONC counties to retain this money, that there would be some sort of understanding that we need to all be working together rather than working separately. I had a chance, and I think I shared the email with you, to exchange emails with Tammy Bainey from Deschutes County, who's this year's president of AOC. She was a bit surprised by all of this, and evidently supposed to have been getting monthly reports from AOC and hadn't received one for like 3 months, so she was appreciative of the fact that I shared this information with her and got an update from AOC staff that kind of outlined what their vision is for working through the different entities. I also had a chance yesterday, in between meetings in the car, to touch base with Tony Hyde, who serves as the vice chair of the board, and he expressed his personal belief that active forest management is where we want to be, and that we need to all be working together, particularly in the areas that I just described. I don't know that I want to. So anyway, I think that it's important that we're part of the advocacy effort. I think it's also important, and what he said is that the dollars won't be expended until the board actually takes a vote. And so, Commissioner Brentano, with you on the board, I would hope that you would bring to them the message, and be riding herd on that, making sure that you're clearly understanding and expressing that we need to do something different than what we've been doing before. And I think, Tony was very clear that he agrees with that, and that from his personal perspective, that we'll be doing what the ONC counties would be investing the money in would not be to give the money to the coalition, but to be using the money so that we continue to have control over it locally. That's the piece. I think the bottom line for me is making sure that we don't just give the money to a third party, and then when the third party does something that doesn't help our interest, to say, well, gee, there was nothing we could do because we gave it to that third party. So, and he did express that he agreed with that and that he didn't see that happening. So I was kind of playing with the idea that we would stipulate that the funds would not be transferred to the National Forest Counties and Schools Coalition. I don't know if we want to bind ourselves to that extent, but that would be my hope, just based on the experience in the past. Everybody's saying that they're not going to do that anyway, but we can play with that, or if you want to actually, I'm not sure that you want to have us have to have another resolution once it's spent, because you are our representative on the board, and it may come up for a vote, and you'd be in a situation where you'd say, well, I can't vote on our money until we have a resolution brought back. So I'm thinking maybe if we just either put some things on the record here today that express our point of view, that might be enough. And then the last thing I would say is that I'm not sure the format of this resolution meets our legal format. So I would ask staff to work with Gloria to make that, and this is a little kind of a pet peeve of mine, but where it says the county everywhere, we aren't the county, we're Marion County. So if you would change that to Marion all the way through, we need 3 lines for the signature, and then the header needs to be, when we read the resolutions, generally they say in the matter of, and they have, the heading. And this, I understand you got a mock resolution and probably just changed it to Marion County, but it needs to be in our format. And the motion we have doesn't authorize a single commissioner to sign. I would prefer that all 3 of our signatures be there, particularly if I had chosen to vote no, I would want to make sure that my line was blank. So, but I think I probably will be supporting this today, but I'd like to have a little bit of discussion on it just to find out where my fellow commissioners are at.
And I have some comments, but I know Commissioner Brantano, go ahead, you have some comments to make first.
Yeah, but I'm kind of biting my tongue. I've been around local government long enough to know that when you kind of get what you want, you should just shut up. But, and this would be a good time. But here's my only concerns based on what you said, Commissioner Carlson. Remember, I'm one of 20, so I can't really guarantee to get what you want in that vote. And I do offer, again, just adding to the resolution that would say, and that we will see the minutes and perhaps could even get a resolution before if it was appropriate or planned. But if you really want to have control, I think I'd be happy just to pass it as it is with some updating. But if you want that, it might give you more what you seem to be concerned about.
Okay, well, I'm open to. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me. It's interesting when these issues come up how we each go into action, so to speak, to gather more information and satisfy our own personal questions. And I think that we take these different routes. It ends up we get good results ultimately. So Commissioner Carlson had brought up a number of issues on Monday, and many of which I've had some concerns too. Is it's very difficult to put money into something year after year after year and not get the results that are desired. It's wonderful. I'm so glad that we have you, Commissioner Brantano, on that committee now. We hadn't had that close working relation, really close with elected official on there. So I think that's key right now. It's really important that you're there, and I know where you stand on forest land. So I'm happy about that. Knowing that Commissioner Carlson you were talking with Commissioner Tammy Bainey, et cetera, et cetera. So I picked up the phone on Monday right after our meeting, and I called Dave Henderson in Congressman Greg Walden's office because, go right to the top. What the heck? And I had, of course, served with Greg Walden when I was in the legislature. We remain close friends today. So I trust Congressman Walden's approach to things and his opinion on this very, very critical issue. And no, I haven't followed the issue as closely as you have, Commissioner Carlson, through AOC, and nor have I been sitting on the committee getting the firsthand information that Commissioner Brantano is able to have and listen to the discussions and participate in them. But it is an issue that's extremely important to me. And then, ironically, recently I had the opportunity to talk, I've shared this before, with the regional national forester, and that was a very, very good, candid conversation. He came to my office as he was passing through. We have good support in our area. Grady McMahon, up here, up the canyon in Detroit, he too, knowing where those individuals stand and the direction that they'd like to see things going. And then again, I wasn't able yet, that's why I just checked my phone before we started this to see, because I've had a lot of phone tag going on between both Dave Henderson and also another individual in Congressman Walden's office, and then also with Congressman Walden himself. So what I've learned there, my point I want to make is that I'm comfortable knowing the direction and what Congressman Walden would like to see accomplished, what our National Forestry people would like to see, knowing Commissioner Brantano's position on this. So I will approve this. What I want to see happen, though, and this can be a record here, is we've got to have a more specific, focused approach to this. I understand there were some behind the scenes, so to speak, issues and concerns with lobbyists, et cetera, in the past. Presumably, everybody will learn not to make those same mistakes and try to have a more direct, effective advocacy for what we need to accomplish. That's my desire in leaving the money. You know, you just hate to keep throwing good money after bad, and so I'm hopeful that you will convey our messages to the next meeting, that we want to see a different approach, a more positive, a more effective approach, and then together with Commissioner Carlson's recommendation, we get this into a format that's consistent with what we do. I will be supportive of this.
Okay. Well, I'm not quite sure which way you prefer. I'd make the first motion without any reference to a subsequent, and if I don't get a second, I'll answer it.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I would make a motion that we approve a rewritten resolution that authorizes the Association of Oregon California Counties to retain $11,405 of Marion County's balance in the Special Advocacy Fund.
And I will second the motion and I'll make some comments under discussion.
Oh, okay. So there's a motion and a second. Good discussion.
Just to put on the record again that my desire would be, unless there's a major change in the approach of the organization, that the ONC counties carefully and thoughtfully retain the money where they have control over how it is spent with regard to lobbyists. And because if we give it to a third-party group like this coalition, now I understand they're going to be looking for private money to fund the coalition, and that's great. I mean, if industry wants to fund and hire a lobbyist outside of what we're doing, that's their privilege, and say over that. But with the dollars that I mean these are our taxpayers' dollars, so we're responsible for making sure that they're spent well. And I guess the other comment would be that I clearly get that we're 11,000 out of 600,000, so we are just we're not the major player here. We're like the little mouse that's squeaking. But I do think that we can have influence in the discussion, and I just want to make, and I think actually through this discussion we already we have their attention. I think, and that may be all that we needed to do at this point. So, and we'll look forward to your reports of the meetings, and if you have any questions as you go into them about what my position is, I'd be happy to share it with you.
Fine.
Okay. All right. So I agree with what Commissioner Carlson's saying, and again, I'm not looking for a different resolution, just sending the message, that small mouse that's squeaking loudly, this is an important issue to us. So,
and then we are going to make the technical changes, right, to the resolution.
you have it.
Well, I don't know whether to bring it up, but there's a subpart. Remember, to be on the board, you have to be elected by the board members is how it works. So they kind of needed to show some solidarity and support because the election comes up in a month in Eugene. So this helps me a lot just on the side.
Yes.
We want you to be on the board.
Thank you.
It's very important that you are there speaking on our behalf, that you can have that.
Well, to be honest, I haven't spoke a lot in this last year, just first year on and trying to figure out what's going on. But I will say, and you've been hinting about it, my attitudes and my feeling on what we should be doing in the force are the same as that board. So
Yes.
I've enjoyed that.
Good. All right. Any other comments? Any questions? Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the authorization of a resolution that's written in our traditional format. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Okay, so thank you very much, Jitesh, for your work on this. All right. Our next item is to consider approval of a fee-for-service contract with Northwest Testing Incorporated, a division of Northwest, Geotech Incorporated, to provide third-party testing and inspection services for the Courthouse Square Complex Remediation Project. Peggy Mitchell, I know John's name is on here also. You are seated right there in the hot seat, so
Madam
go
Chair.
ahead. Go ahead, John. You can.
Madam Chair, this is an important contract for us as we move into the remediation of Courthouse Square. This is an outside independent firm that will do all the testing on a whole variety of the actions taking place to remediate Courthouse Square. And it'll include laboratory analysis, inspection, field testing, and documentation, and reporting to us on the findings, as well as to our representative that we've contracted with to manage the project. They'll be testing epoxy dowels, anchors, epoxy crack injection, the fiber reinforced polymers, which is going to be interesting to see how they do that. But they will test the strength of that fiber and whether it is firmly attached to the walls, and of course the concrete strength and steel reinforcement. We do have a minor issue with this contract, and I'll let it's very important for us to have this and to get it in place as soon as we can, but I'll let Peggy talk about
I'm going to
that.
let Peggy do the heavy lifting.
That's right.
Here. I get it.
Peggy always does the heavy lifting, so.
Well, at least we try to. For the record, Peggy Mitchell, I'm Marion County Contracts and Procurement Manager, working in the Finance Department. And we will be asking the board to tweak the action item a little bit this morning. As John indicated, this is a fee-for-service contract. It is for an independent third-party testing and inspection company to come in. And as you know, the Courthouse Square project is up and moving, and we expect activity to begin. And I had a conversation with our contractor yesterday, and the building has now become a construction zone, and they have put in their safety protocols, and if you go beyond a certain point in the building, you're going to be required to have the necessary hard hats, safety glasses, safety vest. So that's kind of our first sign that work is happening in the building. And as John indicated, this contract's very important for us as structural moves forward with the remediation work that will be done. It will all be governed by Oregon Specialty Code Chapter 17, which outlines the protocols, the requirements that are needed to be in place in order for this work to happen and to pass the city's inspection. The City of Salem is the building code official over this project, so they'll be using Oregon Specialty Code Chapter 17. And as John indicated, some of the repairs and the fixes that they have are these specialty items, the FRP, the carbon fiber that will be attached on the undersides of the floors. When they're doing column enlargements, they're going to be their pump and form concrete. So there are special requirements and things that need to be in place, and that the work needs to be done according to code and the permitting requirements. One of the things we did an RFP solicitation process to hire this firm. We released the RFP October 3rd. The RFP closed on October 15th. We received two proposals. One proposal did come in after the closing deadline, and then on further inspection, we noticed that there were some key components missing in that proposal as well. So at that time, we determined that the second proposal was deemed non-responsive because they didn't meet the minimum requirements of the process. We did have the evaluation team go through and look at the one proposal that we received. And with the assistance of our owner's representative, Mark Liedman from Case Forensics, he's our material scientist, So we had Mark also go through, review their proposal, review especially their qualifications and their certifications and requirements to make sure that the team that they were proposing to move forward had those necessary certifications that are going to be required by the city in order to perform some of these specialized tests and inspections. And upon review, the team that we had put together, we determined that Northwest Geotech did have the necessary qualifications and the certifications and the expertise in order to move forward. As we got working on the contract, John talked about the scope of work. One of the other requirements all of our Courthouse Square contracts had is we've increased our insurance requirements, and usually that seems to be the one issue that we always end up dealing with up until the 11th hour, trying to get those details worked out to make sure that these firms do meet our insurance requirements and they're able to carry those out. One of our requirements for this contract was they needed to secure professional liability insurance, and we upped their requirement to a $2 million policy per occurrence. Their normal coverage that they carry is $1 million per occurrence and then a $2 million aggregate. The other item or requirement that we put in, and Northwest Geotech was able to go out and procure the additional $1 million professional, so they were able to meet our $2 million per occurrence policy requirement. And as they were working with their broker, they noticed another statement that we had in our contract document for professional liability, and the statement was that these limits shall not be eroded or wasted by defense cost, which caused them a little pause. They went back to their broker and asked, what does our policy cover, and found out that their policy did have that provision in it. So Monday and Tuesday, they spent the last couple days scrambling, trying to get back to their insurance carrier to see what we could do to either get an endorsement on their policy that would remove that clause. And what they're finding is that that's a standard policy that most everyone who purchases professional liability, errors and omissions coverage, there's kind of a standard provision in it. Unfortunately, their insurance company is on the East Coast, and with the storm that hit the East Coast on Monday, they're having difficulty getting conversations with their insurance carrier. So as of 8:30 this morning, I had not heard anything back. They are fine with all the language in the contract as it stands. And so what we wanted to do is explain the contract to you this morning and let you know that we are in agreement there. But the one thing we do want to ensure is just making sure we take care of that one provision regarding the wasting and eroding requirement.
So if I could ask, so can we approve the contract today subject to getting the insurance, since we're not meeting for 3 weeks? I think that would...
Madam Chair, Commissioner, I think it might be you can do that, but you might want to approve my signature on the contract so we don't have to come back to the board for a signature.
And one of the things we are starting, we do need to have this team on board very soon. Structural is getting ready to start doing some of their trainings as they move forward, and it is imperative that we have the testing team identified and on board and able to move forward. I will mention...
Me, Peggy. Okay. Commissioner Brantano has
Well,
a question.
thank you. I'm just concerned that they won't agree to taking that out, and there we sit. And I'm wondering if our motion shouldn't be saying we need the wasting, but we'll sign it without, or something like that, that makes sure that they can be in place.
I did have a conversation with Mina Hansen, our risk manager, and it was at her requirements that we put that language in, and briefed her on the situation. And our conversation yesterday was, we'll wait and see if they're able to remove it. Now, we don't know whether they'll be able to get an endorsement, and then I'll kind of look to Gloria, but I think our decision point at that time would be whether we would waive that requirement and accept the $2 million professional, but it still included the wasting away component to it.
Gloria, do you have?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, it could be based on obtaining insurance that is acceptable to the county as approved by our risk manager, our county administrator, and with legal counsel's review. And that's something that typically happens as we're trying to work through insurance difficulties. So first preference would be that they do obtain the $2 million policy. That is not a wasting policy. We've certainly had our challenges with those types of policies related to Courthouse Square. But if that cannot be obtained, then the alternative would be insurance that is acceptable to the risk manager and county administrator.
Well, and would there be a possibility if we felt if we can't get the wasting policy, the wasting clause out of there, I'm thinking there might be some other compromise of some clarity of limitations on that, or to simply say, well, we have no choice and we're just going to have to go with it. I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm also wanting to back up and ask Peggy or maybe John if, as this arose, was there any initial reaction from them, or any? Do you have a sense of you will be able to work through this, or do you have a sense that it's going to be very difficult?
I believe we'll be able to work through the issue. I had sent them a final draft late Friday night, and then they had an opportunity to really read through it. And of course, we had a copy of the contract was a part of the RFP process, so it was information they had early on. But it's when you finally get down and read the details and some of that fine print, that just stuck out at them, and so they wanted to make sure that they were able to meet our requirements. And they were able to increase the limits from the $1 million per occurrence to $2 million without a problem. Again, there's an added cost to us for doing that. And, right now at this point, I don't know whether there'll be an added cost for them to come up with an endorsement or what is out there, but that might be the other alternative. But so far, they've been a very good company in meeting our requirements and working through the contract changes.
Okay. So I just want to reiterate my hope would be it's not an either or. I am encouraging you very, 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 very strongly to have that wasting clause eliminated. If that's not possible, I can't just sign off on, I would hope there's some compromise, understanding of, or a position that both parties would be comfortable with that protects us from the adverse effects of having a wasting clause. So, Commissioner Krause.
Well, I was just going to throw in, and I completely agree, my strong preference would be not to have the wasting policy because of the experience we had. I guess thinking about how this would play out, though, they are just doing testing. They're not really doing construction or those types of things. And so we've had some legal issues with others that have done testing for us. If it's $2 million rather than $1 million, the legal fees would waste from the higher point, and the cost of doing the testing per occurrence tends to be less than $500,000. I mean, I'm thinking that they were smaller. We didn't have gargantuan amounts for the other testing that we did, right? So I'm just thinking that in terms of that, we're not looking at and also the other part that I'm thinking is that we had that kind of unusual circumstance where we went through one entity to other entities through one policy, which I don't think we would be doing with this one. We would just be directly working with the testing organization one-to-one. So that, even though I strongly prefer having it not be wasting, if it's impossible to get, I'm thinking that these circumstances are somewhat different than what we dealt with the $1 million policies that we had with construction folks with a much larger scope of work and larger cost associated with the damage that was done.
Madam Chair, this is a much smaller amount of money that it will cost to do the testing. I think we're also in a very different situation. we'll have a lot of people supervising both the construction and the testing, particularly the testing. You'll have Mark and you'll have Ken and the city. The city now has a construction engineer on board, and they will be watching the testing also. So I think we're in much better shape in terms of how we'll get the testing done than we were when the building was built. We'll have a lot more eyes watching. So I'm much less concerned, and I've been concerned about the wasting policies as we've gone through this too, but I'm much less concerned with this than I am with the others. We're also in a situation where we really do need to get the testing in there as soon as we can.
I know, but again, I'm just not in a position to sign off on that. You don't make the same mistake twice.
Well, Madam Chair, the only alternative would be not to have testing, and I think that would be worse.
I know. So I would want to know more about, where that would lead. What if these folks are, this is, streaming live and they're watching and saying, whew, we can get out of this. We don't know yet what their response is. I hear what Peggy's saying. I want to encourage the very strong position that clause needs to come out of there, and then I want to know what happens afterward. And if there is if they take a position, a strong position against removing that, then that raises other questions.
And I've not seen any indication that they're going to go there. They, in fact, before they called me, they had their call to their broker, and they were trying to figure out. In fact, they didn't even know that they had that clause in their policy until they called.
And that, I'd like to think everything positive.
Right.
Having this discussion, though, of, well, wait a minute, what if? We need to be well informed about what happens if. So going back then to we could make some kind of a motion to approve this subject to whatever that motion is. I don't want to hold things up, but neither am I willing to sign something that we get boxed in a corner and say, we don't have any options. And like I say, I'm not going to make the same mistake twice.
Do you have comments? Do you want me to make a motion?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how we can do this.
I've got a motion in mind.
Okay, well, I'm just, for the record, I'm going to be gone next week. If one of the ideas that's going through my head is set it up for a special meeting when we get that information back. I could be available by phone if that works, but I don't know what those other schedules are. So I throw that out.
I'm not here next Wednesday either, but I could be available by phone.
I have a lot of available time next week.
I'm really excited.
So do you want to put some motion on the table?
Well, let me try this one,
see what
and then we can go from there. So I was going to move that we approve the fee-for-service contract with Northwest Testing, Inc. to provide third-party testing and inspection services for Courthouse Square Complex Remediation Project, subject to the company procuring an insurance policy acceptable to the risk manager and the chief administrative officer. I figured those two are enough. And that we would authorize John Latimer to sign the contract. So if we want to have a special meeting prior to that, then maybe we need to change the motion. So
I think I could live with that, because if they don't agree with it, it implies we're going to have to get together and figure out what we do. And they pretty well know that we're not real happy about that wasting policy in there.
Well, I want to know, what it is, and I have the utmost respect for John Latimer and Mina and Gloria and Peggy and everyone else. Unfortunately, this is one of those issues, though, that doesn't rest on your shoulders if something goes wrong. Rests on our shoulders. We're the ones who have to be held accountable for what happens. And I cannot just put off or give this kind of a decision. I just can't do that.
I'll say, okay, so what if I amend my motion to say, should the insurance policy not be acceptable, and acceptable then would, there would be clear communication before you signed it with the board, right? That you would let us know that we would schedule a special meeting.
Well, let me suggest something else. Right up to what you said, that following the language here, subject to, well, I was first going to say subject to and there might be better technical language, subject to the elimination of the wasting clause. That's very cut and dry, and then
If that doesn't come in that way, we know we need to get together.
And again, as I've said, there could be, John's raising, you are all raising, that there could be this, there could be any number of circumstances or explanations that I would be comfortable but I don't know what they are. I want to know, first of all, if they come back and say, no, we have to have that wasting clause in there, I need to know why. Because they know something they're not sharing with us, or something. Let me say it differently. They know something I don't know. So there could be any number of reasons. We come back to the drawing board, and we can find a way to have an agreement that's acceptable to everybody. It's not just anyway. So if that would be something, and again, I can be available by phone. I'm just not going to be in the office on Wednesday, but I can be available by phone, and
It doesn't have to be Wednesday even.
or any time. Yes, I'm available if we have to do a quick meeting.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I would imagine that they would agree to it. I would also imagine it might cost us more.
I understand that too.
So, Gloria, you look like...
Well, Madam Chair, Commissioners, obviously our preference is to eliminate the wasting provision. Most companies aren't even aware of that. It's the insurance brokers. This is the language that's embedded in your insurance policy, and how closely do you really read those policies. It's only when you have a problem like we had that you discover that these provisions are really in there. One of the challenges is the company is trying to get the insurance system and companies to change from their standard offerings, and that's why it may possibly cost more if they can get it out. If they can't, then there may be other alternatives that are acceptable to protect the county's interest. As Commissioner Carlson pointed out, we've doubled the amount from $1 million to $2 million. The policies we had before were working off of $1 million to start with. So if they can't get it out, then we can look at other alternatives, perhaps even increasing it more than that, more than the $2 million. There's the other endorsements, special endorsements, and I'm not as familiar with those. That's where we'd rely on our risk manager or county administrator. But there may be alternatives that are acceptable to protect the county's interest other than just taking that out, if we can't get that out as the first.
And that's exactly what I'm suggesting. There may be other things that I would find acceptable if removing that as it is stated currently is not possible. But
All right, so let me just adjust the motion one more time. So, approval of the contract, subject to an insurance policy acceptable to the risk manager and CAO after consultation with the Board of Commissioners. And then, should it not be acceptable,
then we would have a special meeting, and we would authorize John Latimer to sign. So the two prongs are, if there's an acceptable insurance policy, so say things clear up in New York City and they're able to get through and they can get the wasting clause out, we haven't held it up, we don't have to have a special meeting. Say that they talk and it becomes impossible to do, and we suggest 3 million or whatever, Gloria and John come and consult with each one of us by phone, and we all say fine, then we don't have to have a special meeting. But if that breaks down, then we have a special meeting. So that's my motion. Does that work?
Well, I think so, and I want to make sure, so we, the board, would have the final say.
Right.
You're putting in there acceptable to the risk manager and the CAO.
After consultation with the board.
And so then that's the piece
Well,
that...
the part that I was thinking legally would be difficult is to say that the board gave permission, because we can only give permission in a formal meeting.
Right,
So the consultation would be individually, but we wouldn't be in a forum where we would take a vote and, to give them official permission. So that was why I worded it that way, but my intent would be that they would talk with each one of us as they have in other matters, legal matters, and we would give direction through that consultation.
Okay. And good, I wanted that explanation out publicly, so that, because it could be a little confusing to anybody listening to this, and what the heck are they doing? So thank you for that.
And I'm not adverse to having the special meeting, but if we don't have to actually schedule it, notice it, if they're able to work something out that's in agreement, it would probably be more, it'd be more timely, and it would be less challenging and less work for everyone in the office.
So,
to work
again, to role play it, they come back and say, we can't remove that language. Here's something we can look at. There's discussion with John and Mina, everyone out, Gloria and all, and then they relay to us, here's what we can do. Wouldn't necessarily require a special meeting. We can have conversations, because the way you're wording this, they have the authority then to sign off on. If we, or if two commissioners were to say, yes, go forward, then there can be movement. But we commissioners still have the ability to give the approval going forward in a legal manner, but not requiring a sit-down face-to-face meeting. Now, what I would still be much more comfortable with, though, because if we're all available, whether it be by phone, whatever, to be able, though, should there be the need for discussion, because I don't want any appearance of it ended up being or looking like a behind-the-scenes decision, and should there, I won't go there. So my first priority would be if the language isn't removed and we have to talk about what other possibilities there may be, I would like us to connect live to discuss it, so there's no misinterpretation. I mean, this is a critical issue. For any one commissioner to have a discussion with John, whomever else, individually, the commissioners and John and whomever else would be clearly understanding each other, but that doesn't mean the other two commissioners would be understanding those conversations. So I do think it's important to have language in there that if it's not acceptable, we will have a special meeting.
If I could, I know you want to say that. I think I'd rather just have the special meeting. Somehow this feels, you're getting a little open meeting, grayness here involved. And so could you make that and just say if it isn't, we'll hold a special meeting after announcement as early as possible next week.
So you want to repeat your motion? We'll make sure Lynn gets this clear.
Yeah, we give her about 4 versions.
All right, so it's the language that's written on the agenda. I'm still going to say subject to an insurance policy acceptable to the risk manager and the CAO after consultation with the board. And then, so you want to just have a special meeting no matter what?
No, only if the
If the language,
wasting isn't removed.
so you've got all the language that's up there saying courthouse complex remediation project subject to the.
Okay, let's say subject to the insurance policy as specified in the current contract. So should that insurance policy,
No,
in the
that's not,
contract language, that is correct.
That is correct.
Right, that's because we were, in our contract, we're requiring a no wasting policy.
Correct.
So per the contract. So should there need to be a change in the contract based on the insurance, then we would have a special meeting. If they're able to obtain the insurance as required by the contract, we would authorize John Latimer to sign the contract.
And I'll second that.
all right, so what you have submitted, Peggy, does not, that wasting language was removed.
Our requirement is that the limits shall not have the wasting by defense cost, that would not be in the policy.
Right, to change the policy, you would have to change the
I would
language
have-
in the contract.
Correct.
Okay, so it's clearly, and I just want to make sure that this, now, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that what you have submitted to them does not have, that language is not in there.
Correct. What it states is professional liability errors and omission insurance with a combined single limit or the equivalent of not less than $2 million each claim, incident, or occurrence. And then this is the key line, these limits shall not be eroded or wasted by defense costs.
Okay.
So we're clearly telling them that cannot be in
Right.
their policy.
Okay, so if they cannot accept this contract as written, then we would come back to a special meeting. Okay. I'm sa-
Otherwise, John can sign if they
Right.
can get the.
And now that you're rereading that, it is what you said earlier through our conversation, and I've been using the phrase that language must be removed. You've already removed it.
We have.
Okay, clarity, all right.
Madam Chair, it's really an issue that they have with their insurance company. Can they purchase insurance with no wasting clause?
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. Okay, all right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Okay, those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All right.
Thank you very much. And Commissioners, if I can
Yes.
indulge you for a moment, I do have some exciting news, and Jeff White, our Chief Financial Officer, is here and shares this news with me as well. We're happy to introduce a new staff person to the Finance Department, especially in the contracts and procurement area. Camber Schlag is now our new contracts compliance analyst.
Peggy, I told Camber earlier that I didn't want to put her on the spot, but I'd really like it if you will come forward so we can all.
What a way to start your first day of work, correct?
Is today your first day?
Yes, it is. We told her we were
Welcome.
throwing a potluck in her honor.
And she came dressed appropriately. Yes, she understands already. We have fun at Marion County. Anyway, I don't want to put you on the spot, but continue with introducing Camber.
Yes. Well, we went through the recruitment process. Camber comes to us with some good credentials. One of the requirements we had for this position was that they held a CPPB certification, which is a Certificate of Public Purchasing Buyer certification, which goes through a national process. So Camber has worked for the state of Oregon, so she has background in purchasing. Her last department was the Oregon Housing and Community Services. So she served in many roles there as a purchasing agent, a prior career in other departments, and then her most recent has kind of been program management of grant funding through Oregon Housing. And so we're really excited. She's going to add some depth to our team and help us as we move forward and really look at Marion County's contracting process. I know that is an item that Commissioner Carlson has a great interest in having us relook at our rules, our policies and procedures, as well as the board, our central services departments. That is one initiative that we'll be looking at over the next year. So I'm really excited to have Camber join us and become part of our team as we move forward. with some of these larger contracts that we have in place and just helping us get our day-to-day work done.
Well, welcome, Camber. And if there's anything you'd like to say, without putting you on the spot, please go ahead.
I'm just excited to be here. So it's going to be a fun change, and I'm really excited. So.
Madam Chair, I don't know if we should have had her watching this meeting.
I think this was very instructive.
Are they going to be involved in every contract they look at? Wow.
It just gives her a little flavor of what we're moving into, and
This is what can happen.
So thank you very much.
Courthouse Square is very unique. Anyway, welcome, and we're very glad to have you on board.
John's got something.
Madam Chair, we're really happy to have Camber. I know Jeff and I are both, we interviewed the candidates, and as did Peggy, and we're really happy to have Camber with us. I think Peggy now will have someone to help her with some of the other contracts other than the Courthouse Square stuff, which has consumed her time. Oh, yes.
Yes, there are others.
I don't know. How many contracts do we do in a year, Peggy? A lot.
We review over 850 contracts and amendments. As you know, they all come back and get changed. But the departments take the bulk charge of putting the contracts together, and then they come into the finance department, and finance reviews those along with legal counsel and risk. So there are a lot of contracts that we're looking at, in addition to helping set the policies and procedures that the board adopts, and making sure that our procurement rules are up to date. So there's a lot of work out there that we do, and just the volume of the contracts in the past few years has it steadily increased.
It's not just, Madam Chair, it's not just the contracts either. It's purchase card purchases that we have to supervise. And we really do want to get a process in place to do a better job, more efficient job of reviewing and getting some standards in place for our contracts. I don't necessarily think we're going to take it all away from the departments, but we're going to have more review of what the departments do.
The times call for it.
Oh, yeah.
And now we have extra help. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Okay, that's all we have on our agenda today. There are no public hearings. I will read the calendar, the places that we will be. Of course, we are finishing up our board session here. Tomorrow, November 1st, Thursday at 9:30 a.m., we have a department head elected official meeting here in this room, the Commissioners' Boardroom at 1115 Commercial Street Northeast in Salem. Also tomorrow, next Wednesday, clear out a week. It looks like we're not very busy. We all know that we are very busy, even if we don't have public meetings we have to notice. But going clear to next Wednesday, November 7th, again, there will not be a board session here, but the Woodburn City and Marion County lunch is scheduled at noon in Woodburn, but the specific location will be determined later. And so, of course, next Tuesday, I want to comment on next Tuesday is Election Day, and remind people to get your ballot turned in. If you're looking at mailing it, you really need to do that very, very soon, because if the elections folks don't have it in hand at 8 p.m., you're going to be out of luck. And there are a number of drop sites, places that you can deposit your ballot. You can go to the elections office on Commercial Street and drop it off there. I did, and it's playing. I actually watched it. Our community, Marion County, your community partner, we did a segment on elections. There's a lot of information there if anybody wants to go to watch that, where the drop sites are and addresses for the Marion County elections. That information is also in the Marion County voter pamphlet, or you can go to the Marion County website, which is www.marion.gov. co.marion.or.us, and get any, if you have any questions about anything. So looks like what I'm hearing, voter turnout is going fairly well relative
think there's
to
some
past
interest.
years. We hope so. So just want to encourage everybody to vote. Any other comments?
I have a couple, not terribly hilarious or anything, but at noon in Staten, our Rotary meeting will be at the library today, and we'll have all three mayoral candidates from Staten. And it's one of the races here in Marion County that's really got some choices, kind of a new and old and a whole different version to choose from there. So I'm interested to see what they have to say. And then another, just kind of on a personal side, after all of our issues with Courthouse Square, I'm suddenly more aware of building and construction and whatever. I visited a friend up at OHSU yesterday, and so they have the parking column, and I look around, and I got to tell you, I felt very secure to see columns that are, maybe 4 times larger. And I know it's a bigger building on a hillside, but every time I drove into Courthouse Square, I looked around, and if they didn't look spindly, and I think they were.
But they're going to be corrected.
I hope they look like OHSU when we drive in there.
Yeah. So, anything else? All right, then we will adjourn.